Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're heading over to Holland, Michigan, at least virtually, using its Wikipedia page as our guide. Our goal here is to really get under the surface, understand what makes this lakeside community tick. We'll look at its history, geography, people, economy, culture, the whole picture to give you a good feel for Holland.
Exactly. It's like peeling an onion, isn't it? We've got a lot of info here, and the really cool part is seeing how it all connects the founding, the culture now, everything. It builds a unique story.
Okay, sounds good. So let's start at the beginning. Established in 1847, what was going on then? What led to its creation?
Well, what's really interesting is why it was founded. You had this group of Dutch Calvinist separatists. Dr. Albertus van Raalte was their leader. And basically, things were pretty tough economically back in the Netherlands. These were folks with strong religious convictions, feeling they had to leave the main church there, which often tied into social and money pressures, too.
Right, so it was kind of a fresh start born out of necessity. And they arrived in a place that wasn't exactly empty, was it?
That's a really key point, yeah. The Dutch settlers landed right where the Ottawa people, the Odawa, had their old wing mission colony. This was near the Macatawa River, which they called the Black River then, and Lake Macatawa also called Black Lake way back when, until like 1935.
Okay, important to remember this land was already home to people. How did things go between the newcomers and the existing Ottawa community?
Yeah, well, according to the sources we have, the relationship was pretty strained, unfortunately. There are mentions of settlers taking resources, things like sugar, venison from the Ottawa. And beyond just stuff, there were big cultural clashes. The Ottawa blended Catholic and Native traditions, and, well, the new settlers didn't really accept that.
Sounds like a really difficult situation. What happened to the Ottawa people there?
Well, eventually, the Dutch leadership tried to push the Ottawa out, move them into some wooded areas in Allegan County. Ultimately, though, the Ottawa community, led by Chief Peter Wakazoo and Reverend George Smith, decided they had to move to protect their way of life. They made the hard choice to go north to Northport on the Leelanau Peninsula.
Wow, a huge upheaval for them. Okay, turning back to the Dutch settlers. Dr. Van Raal sounds like he was more than just a religious leader.
Oh, definitely. In those early days, he was really central. Not just spiritual guidance, but he was involved in, politics, education, finance for the new settlement. His influence was huge. Like, he started a Reformed Church in America congregation that first year, 1847. That became the first Reformed Church of Holland.
So when did it become an official city?
Holland was incorporated as a city, March 25th, 1867. Isaac Kapan was the first mayor.
It's really striking how strong that Dutch connection is. Is that heritage still, a big part of Holland today?
Absolutely. The information we have makes it clear. A large chunk of the population still identifies as Dutch American, and that nickname, the Tulip City, everyone knows that. It's a very visible link to the past.
Right. Now, jumping forward a bit in time, the sources talk about a huge event, the Great Fire of 1871. That sounds like a major turning point.
It really was. A massive fire, October 8th to 10th, 1871. And what's kind of wild, maybe a bit spooky, is that it happened at the exact same time as the Great Chicago Fire and the Peshtigo Fire over in Wisconsin. This whole period is sometimes called the Great Michigan Fire. Other cities like Manistee and Port Huron burned too.
Whoa, so it was a regional disaster.
Yeah.
What did it do to Holland specifically?
It basically wiped out most of downtown Holland, and sadly, one person died in the aftermath. What's interesting, though, is that they never figured out exactly what caused it, so there's some speculation.
Any leading theories? How might it have started?
Well, there were a few ideas floated. One was pretty dramatic, burning methane gas from a comet passing by. Probably not that one. A more likely thought was maybe embers blew across Lake Michigan from the Chicago fire, carried by strong winds. But the explanation most people lean towards is that strong winds whipped up a local brush fire, it spread in the forest, and then just engulfed the town. But yeah, the source material is clear. No single cause was ever proven for sure.
That's incredible. Hard to imagine a town dealing with that level of destruction. Okay, let's shift to the present day. Geographically, where exactly is Holland?
So it's in the western part of Michigan's Lower Peninsula. And what's kind of neat is it actually sits right on the county line between Ottawa and Allegan counties. It's right near Lake Michigan's eastern shore, situated on Lake Macatawa, which gets fed by the Macataga River.
So definitely a city shaped by the Great Lakes. And interesting that it's in two counties.
Yeah, it is. And get this, it's the biggest city in both Ottawa and Allegan counties. The part in Ottawa County is considered part of the Grand Rapids metro area. The Allegan County side anchors its own little statistical area, the Holland micropolitan area.
Being that close to the lakes must really affect the climate, right? What's that like?
Oh, absolutely. It's a humid continental climate, but the Great Lakes have a big impact, kind of moderating things. It's in USDA hardiness zone 5B if you're into gardening. The info we have shows some real extremes, though. Record high of 102 Fahrenheit, record low of -24. Average rainfall is around 34, almost 35 inches a year. And yeah, lake effect snow in winter is definitely a thing, and the lakes can cool things down in summer, too.
Okay, gives you a feel for the environment. Now, who lives there? What do the demographics look like today?
All right, so the 2020 census put the population at 34,378. The estimate for 2023 is just slightly up, around 34,540. Looking at the racial mix from 2020, the largest group was white, non-Hispanic, about 65.9%. Then you have the Hispanic or Latino population at 23.4%. After that, Black or African American non-Hispanic was 3.7%, and Asian non-Hispanic was 2.7%. Smaller numbers for Native American, Pacific Islander, other race, and people identifying as mixed race.
Okay, so predominantly white, but with a really significant Hispanic community. Has that profile changed much recently?
Well, the overall population has generally trended up, though there was a small dip between 2000 and 2010. If you compare 2010 and 2020, the density went up a little bit, from about 1,992 people per square mile to just over 2,060. Our source doesn't really break down changes in household types between those two censuses, though.
Gotcha. Okay, for any town to work, you need a solid economy. What industries are important in Holland?
Holland actually has a pretty diverse economy. Manufacturing is big, agriculture, tourism, and higher education too. And here's a fun fact. It apparently has the world's largest pickle factory, operated by Kraft Heinz. During the busy season, the green season, they process over 1 million pounds of pickles a day.
1 million pounds. Wow, that is a lot of pickles. Are there other big companies based there or with major operations?
Oh yeah, definitely. Some really well-known names. You've got Herman Miller and Hayworth, big in office furniture, Adient and Johnson Controls, they do automotive seating and batteries. LG Chem is also big in lithium-ion batteries. Then there's Tiara Yachts, making luxury boats. Magna does glass and mirrors for cars. And even Boxed Water is based there. It's a really solid mix of industries, gives the city a strong economic base.
That's a really interesting industrial lineup. So beyond work, what about the city's character, its arts and culture?
Right, and this is where that Dutch heritage really shines. It's not just history, it's woven into the cultural identity, and it's a huge draw for tourists. The prime example, of course, is the annual Tulip Time Festival.
Oh, yes, tulip time. You basically can't talk about Holland without mentioning it. Tell us about that.
It started way back in 1930. They planted 250,000 tulip bulbs then, today. It's up to 6 million tulips blooming all over the city every May. It's a massive event, brings in about 1 million tourists each year. And they've had some big names perform over the years. Christina Aguilera, O-Town, Bill Cosby performed there in the past too. It's a huge deal, culturally and economically.
6 million tulips. That must just be an incredible sight. Are there other places that kind of celebrate Holland's history and culture?
Yeah, quite a few. There's a Holland Museum, which covers the city's history. The Capon House Museum, that's the first mayor's house, gives you a peek into life back then. And the Settlers House Museum, which actually survived the big fire, amazingly. Even downtown itself is historic. It's on the National Register of Historic Places. And they have that really clever snowmelt project using warm water from the power plant to keep the downtown sidewalks snow-free.
That's pretty smart, especially for Michigan winters. And I think I saw something about a real Dutch windmill.
Yep, that's De Zwaan. It's a 250-year-old working Dutch windmill. It's on Windmill Island, which is actually a city park. It's really impressive, 125 feet tall, big 40-foot sails. A very real piece of Dutch history right there.
Sounds amazing, like a little piece of the Netherlands and Michigan.
Yeah.
Does the culture reflect more than just the Dutch influence?
It does, and increasingly so. While the Dutch roots are strong, there's recognition of other cultures too. They have an annual fiesta put on by Latin Americans United for Progress, celebrating Latino culture. And there's also the Tulipanes Latino Art and Film Festival, which highlights Latino artists and filmmakers.
That's great to hear, seeing that cultural evolution. The Wikipedia page also called Holland the City of Churches. What's that about?
Right, that nickname comes from just how many churches there are, especially congregations from the Reformed Church in America and the Christian Reformed Church in North America. Those denominations have deep Dutch roots. And kind of a fun side note, Holland is actually where the whole "What Would Jesus Do" bracelet craze started back in 1989.
No kidding. That started there. Huh. And I guess being right on the lakes must play a big part in local life, too.
Oh, absolutely. Lake Macatawa and Lake Michigan are huge for tourism and just, recreation. Holland State Park is super popular. And the lighthouse, the Holland Harbor Light, everyone calls it Big Red, that's iconic. The main shopping area on 8th Street is a hub. And like we said, it even has that snow melt system. And for the arts, you've got the Holland Area Arts Council, the Holland Chorale, the Holland Symphony Orchestra. Adds a lot of vibrancy.
Seems like a really rich mix of history and modern life. Let's quickly cover how the city runs and what's available for education.
Sure. Holland uses a council manager system for government. The current mayor is Nathan Box. The city council has 8 members representing different parts of the city, plus some at-large seats. Utilities are handled by the Holland Board of Public Works, and they have a sister city relationship with Santiago de Querétaro in Mexico, which is cool for cultural exchange.
And it looks like education is pretty prominent, with several colleges and universities there.
It really is. You've got Hope College and Western Theological Seminary, both with historic ties to the Reformed Church, plus Grand Valley State University, Davenport University, and Grand Rapids Community College. All have campuses or centers right there in Holland. And of course, there are plenty of public and private schools for K-12 too.
Good transportation is always important. How do people get around and connect to other places?
Well, there's the West Michigan Regional Airport, though for major flights, people usually go to Grand Rapids. Amtrak runs through there. The Pear Marquette line offers train service. Locally, they have the Max bus system, Macatawa Area Express for public transit. For driving, major highways like I-196 and US 31 run through or near the city. And that channel connecting Lake Macatawa to Lake Michigan is vital. Lots of boats, recreational and some commercial, use it to get to the docks in Holland.
Okay. And finally, how does news and information get out locally? What's the media situation?
The main local paper is the Holland Sentinel. Radio-wise, you've got stations like WHTC, WIVN, and WTHS, which is run by Hope College students. And for local TV, there's HCTV.
Right. And a city with this kind of history and activity must have produced some notable people.
Oh, absolutely. And this is pretty remarkable. Holland is the hometown of 4 Medal of Honor recipients. That ties it for the most of any town in the U.S. Their names are John Essebeger Jr., Paul Ronald Lambers, Matt Urban, and Gordon Douglas Yuntima. True heroes. Beyond them, there's a really diverse list. People like L. Frank Baum, who wrote The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, lived there for a time. Current NFL quarterback Kirk Cousins is from Holland. Business figures like Betsy DeBose, former Secretary of Education, and Max Dupree from Herman Miller. Writers like Paul DeCroof. Even the musician Sufjan Stevens, who actually wrote a song called Holland on his Michigan album.
Wow, that's quite a legacy across so many different fields. Well, wrapping up this deep dive, it's really clear Holland, Michigan is much more than just its tulips, right? It's a city deeply marked by its Dutch roots, incredibly resilient after that devastating fire in 1871, and now it thrives with the midst of industries and a culture that balances tradition and, well, modern life. You've got the lakeside beauty, a strong community feel, and all these notable contributions. It makes for a fascinating place.
It really does. And it makes you think, how does a place with such a strong, specific cultural identity keep evolving in our super connected world? So maybe final thought for you, our listeners, thinking about Holland's story. How might its deep traditions influence its future path as globalization continues? And maybe what can other towns learn from how Holland seems to blend honoring its past with moving forward?